All right, welcome to WTF Music Podcast. This is episode number 7. I'm Jason Gillespie here at American Recording Studio, and today my good friend Mark Prescott is here to discuss a little music, a little business, a little history about some things, and hopefully a lot about Memphis along the way. So, Mark, tell me where you're from originally and kind of what got you on this musical journey you're on.
Okay. I grew up in Princeton, New Jersey with the college, and never went to the college, but it was interesting being exposed to people probably with a higher, education conscious.
Sure.
When I was a kid, I felt like such a rebel. I think a lot of teenagers might feel that way at times, like to feel rebellious, you know, and
I think it was 13 to 17, right? The whole phase of it.
Yeah. When we knew everything.
Yeah.
We had the answers.
Nobody could tell me
answers.
anything.
Exactly. Something that I realized years later, looking back at growing up in Princeton, New Jersey, was that, I felt like such a rebel, and it was so interesting to me that. In retrospect, there was absolutely nothing to rebel against.
Right.
It's a college town. It's
low
really
crime.
Very low crime.
Nice.
Very charming. European architecture. Danish architecture.
This is fancy.
Yeah. But the infrastructure in itself is set up in a way that an idea of rebellion is almost like an idea of genius.
Mm-hmm.
It's just another idea.
Right. So did that rebellious nature lead you into music?
Well,
when did you start playing?
So I had an aptitude, I guess, as a kid for music. At least that's what I was told, in school. And my grandparents, being very generous people, bought me an acoustic guitar when I was 10, and I just put it in my closet and forgot about it for a year. And then I went over to my friend's house, and his mother was a film orchestrator and a orchestrator for television, so she always had instruments laying around. And one day I picked up the guitar and she taught me a couple of chords. So I played the guitar, learned those 3 chords. I think it might have been C, G, and D.
Yeah. Oh, the first
and
basics.
And then, the basics. And I went home that night and I wrote a song, a lyrical song.
Oh, nice.
And I don't know what that inclination was, just the passion to write, like I think at a young age I had an interest in poetry. Mm-hmm. So it seemed like a natural step just to pick up the guitar.
Yeah, really an extension
and
of
write a song.
Poetry and music.
But I have to say, it's been the same exact way ever since that day.
Yeah.
And whatever my process is the same as it was the second I picked it up, which is, come up with some music and write some lyrics to it. And, 80% of that stuff is throwaway.
Right.
Just know that, it's genius just doesn't, arrive.
And it doesn't strike
Zeus's lightning
every
bolt,
time either.
God's hand, you and the guitar. I mean, I think people believe that sometimes about Elvis, where it's just, destiny but there's so much work that goes into things.
There's no overnight success. It never happened in the existence of anything. There's always a story, you just don't know it, and it appears to have happened that way,
I think a really good example is the record that we worked on, which is Prescott and the Transit, world famous original.
Best, most Memphis title ever. Fantastic record too. Enjoyed this.
A labor of love. We've been working on this record for 5 years, but you got to figure, well, I'm doing it on my own. We don't have a record deal. There's no timelines. Nobody telling me what to do or how to do it.
Right.
And I think you and I, we've strived as a recording team to maximize kind of our skills toward making the sound the best it could possibly be.
And also going for a uniqueness.
A unique, yeah. A unique
you really had these sounds in your head, a vision of kind of how you want it, and it was figuring out how to get that to come out the speakers. You know what I mean? End result. So
it's interesting. It's an interesting record because it's a 10-piece band.
Yeah.
And so if that would be a luxury for anyone, to have a horn section or to have backup singers or a pedal steel player, pedal steel guitar.
Has all of those.
And or an orchestral piano player that can play the blues like lightning on the keys with Joe Boogie.
Joe Boogie, yeah.
My Memphis piano hero, Joe Boogie.
Phenomenal on the organ too.
Yeah. All around
B3 stuff.
And I listened to his music because he turned me on to some of his records, and it blew my mind because I think, this kind of country, southern gospel piano player, traditional, and then I listened to his music, and it might as well be Prince playing. Yeah. He plays like funk and all different kinds of sounds.
Yeah, you wouldn't just picture that either, just looking at him.
No, not at all. I wouldn't pick up the James Brown in his soul.
Right. Yeah. It's really
right off.
Awesome to hear. But so in a way, Memphis kind of became a destination for you, right?
Sure.
And how you ended up here
when I was. So I dropped out of high school when I was about 15, 16 years old, and I got my GED, and I went to community college. Mm-hmm. And my professor, I went to school for music theory. Yeah. And my professor asked a question to the class, and he said, if you can answer this question, then I'll give you 2 tickets to go see B.B. King. And I was like, oh man. And at that time, from the age of probably 13 to 16, the only thing I was listening to was the blues. So it was Muddy Waters and B.B. King, and just the blues spoke to me so deeply. Usually, I don't know what it is about my nature, but I'm very methodical when it comes to things that I like. Right. Like if I like something, then I want that all the time, and I want to be around that all the time, and I want to understand it completely. Right. So that was my feeling for the blues. I, out of the class, could answer the question. I don't remember what the question was, but I got it right, and I won the tickets. Nice. Now, I had no one to take, so I had 2 tickets to a B.B. King concert, and I went by myself. And
how was the show?
And it was fantastic. Yeah. I mean, later in his life at that point, and halfway through the show, he did say, I've earned the right to sit down at this point. Yeah. Get a chair. Right. And there was Lucille, his guitar. Yeah. Which is a fabled story. Anyone should look that up, the history of B.B. King's Lucille guitar. Just a Google question for everyone.
Yeah, for everybody. Yeah.
But anyway, he was up there on stage and he's playing Lucille, and he's throwing guitar picks out into the audience, and people are just going wild and loving it. And, so after the show, I went around the corner and I recognized the lead trumpet player from the band. I don't remember his name, and I should. That's another thing. Look up the large, fantastical lead trumpet player for B.B. King. His signature thing was he would bob his head to the right and left and play the trumpet. So I recognized him out in the street after the gig, and I told him so, that I remembered him from the U2 film Rattle and Hum, which a lot of that film was filmed in Memphis because they recorded with B.B. King a song called When Love Comes to Town at Sun Records.
Great song.
And to this day at Sun Records, their drum set, their house drum set, is Larry Mullen from U2's house kit that he played on that track. So a lot of history out the gate right there.
Right.
You know, rock and roll, B.B. King, U2. So I met the trumpet player out in the street, and I told him so, that I recognized him from the film, and I really enjoyed his performance that night.
Yeah.
And he immediately threw his arm around me and slapped a backstage pass on my shirt.
You earned the right.
And he brought me backstage.
He's like,
and I was 15
on.
years old,
Yeah,
you know,
man.
so
that's cool, though.
really a wonderful thing. The thing about youth that everybody forgets is that kids don't have anything.
Right.
They don't have money. They barely have clothes. They may or may not be able to afford a car.
Right.
You know, things. Everything in life is a progression, and you know, as you get older, hopefully you accumulate some things that give you comfort. But as a kid, you know, I don't expect, even into your 20s, I don't really expect people to have a whole lot.
Right. Yeah.
So at that time, you know, his generosity, just inviting me backstage, and I got to meet B.B. King. And he was just sitting there.
All of this from getting the answer right in class. Talk about a story.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
Good grief.
Yeah, leading up to meeting B.B. King in his dark shades, sunglasses, and his kind of English golfer cap.
Yeah.
And looking very distinguished, you know, backstage. And he said, you know, "Do you like music, young man? Do you like the blues?" And I said, "Oh yeah, baby. I love everything you do. You know, yeah, just I think you're great." And he was like, "Oh, that's really cool." And I told him about how I played a little bit of guitar, and he was like, "Well, let's hear some of that guitar."
Oh, get out!
And we got to go in the back, and he pulled out Lucille, and I had maybe a semi-acoustic guitar, and we weren't plugged in electric or anything, but we got a good 10 minutes of just jamming and fooling around, and him showing me how to bend the string a little bit here and there, and kind of some of his method.
Got a 10-minute private lesson.
Well, I just, you know, the ultimate guitar teacher, B.B. King. So that certainly is a direct path to Memphis. B.B. King is Memphis, from Memphis. There's B.B. King Boulevard in Memphis. He is so widely celebrated.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
And they call Memphis the city of three kings. Elvis Presley, B.B. King, and Martin Luther King. So if Elvis was the king, then B.B. was his partner in crime.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
And wonderful to hear that, you know, Elvis and B.B. had a real relationship, a real friendship over the years, and every time I hear about B.B. King, when he speaks about Elvis, that there was a real camaraderie and friendship there.
Yeah.
And that's exciting.
Yeah, it's always nice to see too.
To see that, you know, especially at that time. Maybe racial segregation, which is a big line drawn in this town.
Well, yeah, and I was actually talking to somebody earlier that was getting that tour that, you know, a lot of that, people always think about the segregation and the conflict, but before Martin Luther King Jr. was shot, Memphis was the home of the melting pot.
It was the first non-segregated school system.
Well, it was the first place they did that.
Yeah,
and if you talk to anybody from that generation, and my parents lived through some of that, it was not handled well. We were there experimenting.
I think that was across the country. I don't think it went smooth for anyone.
It was really bad here, but it was also because Martin Luther King Jr.
You
died,
see the footage of. I don't think on this podcast we're breaking the race barrier to, understand what was going on in the 60s. I wasn't even alive.
Complicated.
So
my point was before the conflict, Memphis was the first place to bring in, like, it didn't I heard one of the old guys say this at one point that was there for all this. It didn't matter what color your skin was. Can you play the instrument? Memphis was the first ones to do that. Like, before that, I mean, it was the 50s, man. Like, everything was separate. Like, nobody was, the white people were over here and the black people were over here. Nobody was doing that. Memphis was the first one to actually say, hey, let's all get together and make some music. And it was a beautiful thing until some very, very negative things happened for the city, which are tragic. But it started here, that big camaraderie around music.
I'd like to just make a few statements, and these are things I've heard and things that I truly do believe, which is that Memphis musicians are outliers. They're outsiders of any sort of record business per se. I mean, I know that in the 50s and 60s, RCA was here.
Yeah, there was a big presence.
There was a big, record push and presence at that time. But subsequently, only a few renegades really succeeded here.
After
Not even just after, but just, I mean, we're talking, before that, maybe commercial music and the radio, the birth of the radio. And Memphis played a huge part in regionally broadcasting signals across the whole South, Mid-South. And,
there's a lot of that. There was a lot of advances that people don't always know or remember. I mean, you have to keep in mind that Stax was here, and that was a huge label, massive. And they weren't just doing songs for they were writing content. I guess for all sorts.
Being a musician for me is being independent. People might feel. People have a lot of different words they could put on it. Some people, let's say you're in a band, maybe it's a group collective. So, but you're still independently together,
right?
Creating a project, and I think that Memphis musicians, a big theme for me is an idea of independence, like a pioneer spirit,
or ahead of their time in many
renegade.
cases.
Sometimes standing outside of the business, which the business might be Nashville right now. Memphis is a very independent spirit.
It is absolutely. To
be here, it takes a certain level of bravery, a certain level of abandon of the idea of success and what success might be. So I think that in general, across the board, from Elvis Presley, B.B. King, all these different musicians, I think that they, the Stax record label, any musician that's really great that I've heard from Memphis has a signature sound, a unique quality, and a bravery about what they do.
I would agree completely. I think a lot of that has to do with a stubbornness not to sound like somebody else. It's like if that sounded too much like, I discover, I wrote this thing, but it sounds way too much like this, Memphis people would be like, well, forget that, moving on. You know what I mean? That's the attitude, is be original. And that's why you see half the stuff around town slapped with original, like you had said for your record. But it really is, it's a different type of town. It's very hard to make it in this town. As far as climbing to a level of success, because I think a lot of people in Memphis perform. A lot of people play. Even your just average listeners. A lot of people do in the city, and there's a reason for that, because there was a huge amount of musicians and artists and people all based here in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. They all had kids, and those kids had kids, and now those kids, you know what I'm saying? So it's a generational thing, and people have, over the years, jokingly said it's in the water, but it's just because everybody grows up playing something.
I think the true link actually is in the church.
And there's that too.
And the great musicians that I know began their, I wouldn't say careers, but their maybe ignited their passion for music within the church and praise music.
For sure.
And some of the best drummers, some of the best musicians.
Some of the church
and I know that,
phenomenal.
I would like to touch on that, but I know that you experienced some of that within the church yourself.
Yeah. Started off there.
So many wonderful musicians. And I've gotten the opportunity to go to Al Green's church, the singer Al Green, which his church is very close to Graceland, Elvis's Graceland, maybe a mile or two down the road from there. Yeah. But getting to hear Al Green sing and kind of go to church and bring your tambourine, I've never done that before.
Right. Oh, yeah. It's its own thing.
It's its own thing,
for sure.
And not that I understand, maybe Al Green would be like, and the Lord made it rain, but if Al Green's saying it, then the Lord did make it rain,
I've never actually been to his church myself, but I've heard many a story about it.
Yeah, it's just so innocent. It's such, because
exactly.
you just show up and he's there.
Yeah, they very much just kind of
tabernacle, legend of Memphis music. And he's just there in the room.
There.
He's still around. 80 years old, I think, about now. Getting there,
Yeah.
But, sorry, Al, if I got it wrong. You're always young at heart.
No, but you're right. A lot of the music did start in that church environment.
Yeah.
Some of the best players I've ever met,
Yeah.
They learned in that environment. Some of those
praise music.
Gospel church drummers, man, will blow your mind with some of the drum fill stuff. It's just amazing. Amazing playing.
The best drummers I've ever met are either marching band drummers in high school, played in the church, or total heavy metal.
right.
Like
30 seconds.
I always that's the criteria for me. Either you got to love metal music and play it every day,
or you grew up in the church,
and you were in marching band in high school.
Generally true.
Yeah.
But you moved here how many years ago?
Getting on 7.
About 7
Yeah,
years.
getting there.
Yeah, and what?
So I came. The first time I came to Memphis, I was 20 years old, and I had a fake ID, and
Nice.
I got onto Beale Street, and I got to go have an adult beer, at 20 years old, and Memphis meant a lot to me already because of B.B. King. So curiously, the second time I showed up in Memphis, it just so happened to be B.B. King's birthday.
No, really.
And he was playing at his club on Beale Street, B.B. King's Blues Club. And so I got to go out and stand on Beale Street and see B.B. King on the street that he originated.
Crazy.
And if people don't know, B.B. King is called B.B. King because he was the Blues Boy King. He was on WDIA radio as a 17-year-old young boy, and young man. And they called him the Blues Boy King on the radio. So that's BB.
Nah.
Yeah.
That's too cool.
So,
I don't even think
out on Beale Street
that.
with the Shoe Shine Boys. They don't exist anymore.
Yeah.
Antiquated. But Beale Street is just the same as it ever was.
Oh, yeah.
So people should really celebrate that and come back.
Iconic imagery looking down
to the
Beale.
city and visit. I mean, people should visit Memphis
I agree completely.
as a destination. Why? Well, as to why people don't show up in Memphis, I think that's a red hot button I'm not going to touch right now.
No, but I do think that people keep coming back, man. Like we have people, even like I mentioned to you guys earlier before we started the podcast, from Europe, like coming all the way on the other side of the globe to tour this building, or to tour. There's things out there.
Why the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame isn't in Memphis, right?
Right.
Memphis is the most disenfranchised city that I've ever seen in America as far as their legacy, rock and roll, soul, rhythm, and blues. Mm-hmm. Memphis, Tennessee.
And gospel.
And the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame should be in Memphis. I mean, it's just ridiculous.
But we always, in the music business, jokingly say that Memphis is the redheaded stepchild of the music business.
Disenfranchised.
Yeah. But again, there's a reason that happened.
Memphis was supposed to be the rock and roll Disneyland. Mm-hmm. Down at the riverfront.
And it was on that
shows
track.
Every night.
There was so much money, so much investment happening from 1950 up until 68. Mm-hmm. It was Martin Luther King Jr. getting shot here. So it was a stigma to have your business associated with Memphis.
And that's understandable.
It is in context, but it sucks for the city. Because none of the talent left, all this talent, some of the best musicians you will ever see are in this town. Mm-hmm. But because of something that happened, very insanely tragic, but because of that, Memphis still isn't getting maybe the credit it deserves to a degree. At least in, a local boy's opinion.
Well, so we're here at American Recording Studio, Memphis, Tennessee, one of the most famous record studios, I would say, in town.
Yeah.
And this is the original RCA B room.
No. RCA Studio B was engineered and designed by the same engineers.
Oh, that engineered this.
Engineered and designed this building.
Thank you for setting me straight on that, because I didn't understand that.
Yeah, so it was designed by the same core engineers.
Okay.
That did it.
Yeah. So tell me that Elvis story that you told me about when Martin Luther King was maybe assassinated, and
right. Well,
he was working downtown.
Yeah, so there's a lot of hot debate about where Elvis did what, when, where, and many people will get their panties in a wad if your story doesn't coincide with theirs. All I can tell people is, like I was telling you, is what I've seen as fact. We have some of the, the track sheets from what was recorded in here with the big band stuff.
Here at American Studios.
When they were working on From Elvis in Memphis. A lot of things were done in this room. All those track sheets. And then, the very famous UA 610 console that everybody talks about when they talk about the original American recording and American Sound Studio, and that was moved into this building in 1968. Seen the moving receipts. So and they mixed everything famously on that console.
Yeah.
So it was mixed in here for sure. And if you listen to the record, it's very clearly a stereo echo chamber on his voice, and they didn't have a stereo echo chamber at the other location.
I guess the story that I was looking for and that I remember you telling me was that Martin Luther King was assassinated downtown, and Elvis Presley was recording at the RCA A room, which was downtown.
No, RCA was in Nashville. Elvis worked with RCA and was recording with RCA, but then he got really angry. There's another story about an engineer falling asleep. But anyways, he and Chips came back to Memphis to do the final, From Elvis in Memphis. So American had two locations at the time, although this one wasn't talked about as much because Chips kept this pretty private.
This was his private studio.
I feel like it was, it was, in some of the things he had written, he referenced it and he called it the annex. He didn't really use, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it was always kind of nondescript language. But, they were obviously using the downtown location, but after Martin Luther King Jr. was shot, it was martial law in this city. There was a curfew. My parents grew up in this, I think they lived in Whitehaven at the time. But at 7 p.m., nobody could be on the street. And Elvis famously didn't get out of bed till 5 p.m. He lived from 5 p.m. to 5 a.m. That was his That's when he was awake.
Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
So they very obviously
Rockstar hours for sure. The original.
The original. Yeah, he kind of set the bar for everybody.
Yeah.
But no, so I mean, like I said, it's hotly debated where certain things were done, and I'll let other people argue those points. But again, after Martin Luther King Jr. got shot, nobody was really working downtown past 6 o'clock.
Well, I just like this idea of Elvis Presley riding out of the gates of Graceland on his motorcycle, riding down Airways, pulling into the parking lot right here.
It is right here.
Riding down Airways on his motorcycle, pulling into the parking lot right here, setting up with his guitar and playing right in that room.
Yeah.
And that, to me, is factual.
I am sure that happened.
Yeah.
But again, like,
I mean, you can hear. I mean, the thing
show.
is, you know, you can hear the echo chambers.
Yeah, it's a stereo echo chamber.
A big reason that I chose to record here at American Recording Studios in Memphis was the Jeff Buckley record that never was, which is Sketches for My Sweetheart the Drunk. And there is a certain echo chamber sound that's on his vocal on that record and on the drums.
Right above our head. Right here.
And, you know, if you're going to use a recording studio as a tool, the echo chambers that have been built upstairs with sound science that we've run sound through, that I believe Elvis ran his voice through, that Jeff Buckley ran his voice through. Any great record that's really been recorded here,
it got used.
It's been used.
It sounds that good. And again, the whole building, I mentioned the RCA Studio B engineers that they designed the echo chamber, and actually the rest of the inside of the building was built around the echo chamber.
Anybody listening, they're not going to know what an echo chamber is. And an echo chamber is a room that's built to sound very cavernous, very echoey.
Before computers, if you wanted a reverb, you had to have a room for it. You actually had to make a reverb sound.
You know, reverb as a sound is, it makes the difference between being in a very small room to being in a stadium or a cathedral. You know, when you sing in the bathroom, you might hear reverb in the sense of like an echo in the tile. You know, people say, "Oh, I like to sing in the shower," right? You know, "Oh, I only sing in the shower."
Right.
You know, but it's because there's this kind of echoey sound in the shower that people like. You know, we could probably name it all these famous records, probably where people were actually in the bathroom in the shower recording vocals. You know. So many times I've heard that, you know.
It's happened on more records than you'd think, honestly.
Yeah.
So, but no, I mean, that echo sound was very unique, and it was not something that everybody had access to. Back when, in the 60s, when this place was built, I mean, you really had echo chambers and you had plate reverbs, and both of which are expensive to build.
So a plate reverb is a sheet of metal.
Thin sheet of metal that's suspended, and usually it's inside of a box.
The sound hits up against it, and it creates an echoey sound.
A speaker at one end, so whatever you wanted to send into it, say a vocal, for example, would move the speaker, that would vibrate the metal, and then you have microphones on the other end that would pick up that reverb.
So this on the opposite end, we literally run the sound into these two tiny rooms upstairs that somehow sound like caves or caverns, and the sound lands up sounding like a long spiral staircase to some endless castle that I've never been to.
Yeah.
You know, like it has this endless quality of sound. So that's a big reason why I chose American, because I appreciated that echoey sound and that it had a more natural sound than I've heard on other records. I wanted to kind of touch on your we'll get back to kind of my motivations to come into Memphis and why I love Memphis music and all that. But so what were your beginnings in Memphis of being a musician, and what inspired you to get kind of into this audio engineering side?
Sure.
Because, you're so multifaceted. You're a guitar player, you're a drummer, you're a fantastical bass player.
Thank you.
And a very talented audio engineer. So I'm wondering, how does somebody go, pick up an instrument and land up in your chair where well, you're at?
It's kind of a funny story. And I've on the show talked about some of this stuff before, but what my first instrument was not the thing that got me hooked on music. It was actually kind of forced to take some piano lessons when I was in second grade. And I did not like it. I remember not liking it at all at the time. To me, though, looking back, I understand why. And it was really because it was very rigid. You're only going to play these notes. You're going to learn this song. You're going to do this exact thing. I mean, it was very structured.
Well, I remember, taking vocal lessons as a young man, and the English song, I don't even know where the song, but the song Green Sleeves. Nothing wrong with the song Green Sleeves, but it's growing up with the band Nirvana, I just couldn't relate to the sound.
Right.
So, it'd be like a very conservative sound.
Well, to me, it was more that it was like very non-creative way of teaching something. Like, here is the notes.
Here's the numbers.
What you're going to play.
Add them up.
Yeah, exactly. It was very cooked. It's like, and that's different if you're trying to get serious about an instrument, but I was in second grade, man. Like, you should
so
just
young,
let the kid
you were
play.
just a kid. Yeah.
Just play.
Yeah.
Like, just have fun playing.
You're supposed to just be banging on a drum.
Yeah, like making noise first. Like, what is cool about this thing?
Yeah,
this thing does all sorts of neat stuff. And I feel like educationally, in a lot of ways.
Tell
like,
Beethoven,
Right.
No, I'm just kidding.
You just kind of let the kid play,
Yeah.
and you'll see what comes out. And like I said, it's different when you get to a point where it's like, oh, you kind of have a natural talent for this. Do you want to get serious? And then you got to break it down. Okay, well, here's why I'm doing what I'm doing, and here's what works, and here's what doesn't. But like a kid's natural inclination is to improvise. I don't know what this does. I'm just going to bang around, find something cool that makes a noise.
Yeah.
Their improvisation is the default. And what's funny is so oftentimes we end up beating improvisation out of in an educational sense, out of them. I know like a bunch of people that were very, very talented musicians, but as soon as you rip the sheet music away, it's like, I don't know what to play. You know what I mean? It's like,
I've always been curious about that because any classical musician that I've met, it's exactly that. They can, their fingers are lightning. Their will of musicianship is unmatched and totally masterful. You take away the sheet music and they're lost.
Ask them
to play something,
yeah.
You know what I mean? And they'll be tinkering around
because
and
the focus
not knowing
was
what to
so
do.
rigid on
The reading,
on mechanical reproduction of what was on the page.
Yeah.
That they're not actually, in many cases, they're not thinking musically. They're following a set, mechanical way of performing and it's beautifully well done.
Well, it's interesting that music can be written as a language that forces movement.
Yeah,
but you're absolutely right.
And it was just how I felt at the time.
Okay.
And again, I was more into sports, and this, I wanted to go be back outside playing. Like
this was here in Memphis, kind of very early
second
in life. Grade.
Second
here we
grade,
go.
man. Like, how old
Music
are you?
lessons.
Like
yeah.
7,
Yeah.
8. But again, so that was funny that was actually the place for me that I didn't enjoy it at the time. But 3 years later in 5th grade, I broke my left arm, and it ended up being a very, very significant break. I shattered my wrist, and I had a 21-pin reconstructive surgery, and they speculated that I would never get full use of my hand again.
So are you telling me that you're bionic?
No.
You're part robot?
No, they took the pins out.
Okay.
Yeah, the pins hold it in place, and then they ended up having to go in surgically, pull the pins back out. Yeah. This is months and months
Elon
later. Musk
has placed you here.
There's no AI in there.
AI.
This is
skeletal.
like 94, bro. but they the doctors thought that I would never get full range of motion back. So, and this is a repeat of something I've told on the show before. But my mom was a nurse and asked around, and somebody suggested, "Why don't you have him try playing guitar?" Thinking, finger dexterity. But I never put the damn guitar down. As soon as I got it, I loved it. Because I just started making noise. It was just me. I couldn't really do much. I was like not that long out of a cast. And
so what was the breakthrough moment for you? For me, it was being able to play the music I hear in my mind and bringing it to my fingers. When I hear a melody, I can play it on guitar.
Yeah.
And when I realized I could do that, I felt a sense of mastery. It was when was like a watershed moment for you in music when you said, I just love this and this is something I'm going to do for the rest of my life?
I have like 3 small moments that make up that whole big picture. The first one was after like when I was learning guitar at first. I think they got me somebody to teach me lessons for like a couple weeks. After that, I was like, I can figure this out on my own now. But he basically taught me how to listen to something and figure out what the part was. But the first song I ever wanted him to teach me was Crazy Train by Ozzy. It's like, I want to know the whole thing.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh my God. It's the first song I asked the guy to teach me, right? So kind of shot for the moon right out the gate. But so there was...
I like this idea of you actually singing the song.
No. Well, I mean, maybe. That might be cool. Crazy. It's been a long time since somebody's done that.
That's how it goes.
Yeah. But after because I learned that song note for note. I can't now. It's been too long since I played the full. But there was a time where I could play that song, solos and everything, note for note, top to bottom.
Oh, cool.
Like perfectly.
Yeah.
So it was the moment that I first got it down where it's like, oh, I just played the entire song. Like, oh, now I got to learn another one. Yeah. That was one moment.
So get the guitar, man. We're here on the podcast.
We're here for discussion today.
We're talking about like I said, man,
moment. I could still play you the main riff.
Grab that guitar.
I can play the main
Mark
riff.
Robbie.
That's not a problem. All the solos and the tapping, I don't know if I could pull that off right now. But so that was one of those main moments that like I got hooked into like I need to learn more, right? And I really wanted to learn every song I could figure out at that point. The next one was years later, like we mentioned, I ended up playing in churches and stuff around town. But at some point, I think it was my drummer's dad took us to tour a studio. And at that point, I was probably like 13, maybe 14. And I remember walking in and seeing the tracking room floor. And then where I got to walk around and see the console, and I knew in that moment, like, I want to live here. Like, I set my mind that that's what I was going to do.
Wow.
And I knew that at 14.
An experimental medium, like getting to see the room of experiments.
Yeah, exactly.
If you were a scientist,
it would be seeing the lab.
It'd be the lab for the first time.
For sure.
Yeah.
There's a good reason a lot of people call the studio the lab, for many reasons. But it was at that exact moment, it's like, I'll never forget looking at that space and just being kind of awed.
Also, too, I'd like to, kind of touch on maybe some of your audio teachers that you might have had.
Oh, sure.
At Ardent Recording, because I know that you worked at Ardent, which is a famous record.
Right. Well, and there was great people there, and then people... that traveled all over the world to Memphis to record.
Go there, yeah.
So many big influences.
R.E.M. I like so many bands that might have passed through there. But I mean, Bob Dylan.
Well, and certainly. I was talking about specifically like the engineers who influenced me over the years.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Big one is a guy named Jimmy Hoyson. So if you remember the song Cherry Pie from the 80s,
Sure.
that famous snare drum, that's Jimmy. That is Jimmy.
I wouldn't have picked that one. I mean, like My Sweet Cherry Pie, of course, is a very iconic song.
It's a very iconic song.
And it'll stick in your
Jimmy's
mind.
worked with everybody, from Celine Dion to, good God. I mean, everyone.
Yeah, Dylan.
Like, you name it.
So
you name it. But all those big 80s hair metal, Jimmy did, most of that stuff.
Pretty innovative.
But, it was.
Yeah.
And the thing was, it's like, Jimmy looked, when I first worked with him, it was probably 2007 or something like that. And at the time, he looked incredibly young for his age. But I looked him up, and his credits went back to 64 or something. Like his first record credit. I was like, holy crap.
Yeah, so he would have been in his early 20s.
Yeah, and he was a major engineer at Capitol out in LA.
Wow.
All those years.
Wow.
All those years. That's where he was cutting some of those stuff. So, but, Jimmy taught me so many things. One of the funniest things, and I have to tell this story just because it's too funny. So he's a California guy, right? They're in Memphis. So he's using coded language, talking about weed. And he wanted to know if somebody in the studio had a pipe or papers or something. So he came up to me and he goes, do you happen to know anybody with a medicinal delivery device? I laughed so hard. It was such a funny story. But that's the kind of funny, California had obviously been legal for a very long time at that point, but not here.
Sure,
you know what I mean? So
the South.
Yeah, but it was just very funny. And one of the things, because I tell people all the time, I learned stuff and continue to learn, but what not to do as much as what I learned to do. And one of those things that outside of all the amazing engineering specifically stuff that I learned from Jimmy was how to have levity in the room. Like, everybody should be having fun.
Sure.
This is fucking fun, man.
Yeah.
Excuse the language.
But
this is a good time.
Yeah. Good time.
Have a good time. And it's going to kind of shine through in the music. And it kind of came across to me that that's kind of part of the engineer production team's job. Like, if you're making sure that everybody's having the time of their life, you're going to end up with better performances. Now, I'm not saying, go get trashed and try and sing a song, but, you should
My
be having fun.
My emphasis has always been on food.
Yeah, and you're not good about that.
You're not going to have a lot of fun if you're hungry.
Right. And there's that, too.
Yeah.
But it's just about setting the tone for the room. You know what I mean? And I learned some amazing tricks on how to mic certain things and do's and don'ts and all that stuff. But the biggest thing that always really stuck with me is about setting the tone for the room, for everybody that's in the room.
Well, that's a great learning lesson from your teacher.
Yeah.
To kind of bring some levity to the...
Just
because
keep it cool, he might say.
There's a lot of pressure because
exactly.
Time is money in the recording studio.
Well, and in certain situations, you're dealing with labels and young artists, and the artist is terrified.
Sure.
You know what I mean? They don't want anybody to know, but it's written plain on their face. You know
Scared,
what I mean?
Yeah.
And that
intimidated.
That one person that kind of cracks the ice for them.
Yeah.
Put a smile on their face when you could tell they were not, you can get something out of them. But you kind of have to, again, read the room yourself and figure out, is this an artist that's struggling to have a good enough ego, or is it an artist with too big of an ego? And which way you're going to play that, it's not the same. And it's that dynamic of how to work with people that was really, really just a priceless lesson to me. Technical things all day long, and we could talk about that for hours, but those things
my
stuck
record,
with me.
of course, being the greatest record you've ever worked on.
In all time.
Of all time.
All time.
So many times it must be challenging to get in the room and try to draw the best out of an artist or a musician. Even when you realize that maybe the the material itself might be a little bit half-baked or
sometimes
not fully developed,
not fully thought out, or in various stages.
And trying to help somebody that might be making smaller steps, but how to help them make larger steps in their project.
And even within that, there's a time where you have to recognize, I got to let them stew on this for a minute. Mm-hmm. Or I need to step up and give them a nudge in a particular direction or something. But I think it's about being aware, like actually being aware of what somebody else. It's that empathy side of things. Like you have to actually feel for the other person and think about, well, what might they need, what might help, what's clearly not going to help. Mm-hmm. And I've worked with all sorts of different production styles over the years, and I've seen, the drill sergeant type where like they literally will tear that person's ego down to nothing, and then build them back up.
Take 55.
But but it's brutal. Like they literally will like bully the artist into getting the right take. Yeah. And I've seen people, and it worked for them.
Method to all sorts of madness.
I hated that method.
Sure.
Personally. Sure. Not my style.
Yeah.
But obviously seeing very, very successful producers out there that's their style, and that's what they do. Mm-hmm. And the artist will end up thanking them for it later. Mm-hmm. It happens all the time. But it's those types of lessons that were, the most impactful for me. So Jimmy was one of them, and then at Ardent, obviously there was John Hampton. John, worked with so many people. Man, you remember the Gin Blossoms record, right?
I was going to mention it because that Gin Blossoms record they recorded at Ardent is one of my favorite records.
And it was one of mine. What's really funny
top
is
100.
Easy.
Yeah.
I had that record on cassette. And then I ended up with it on CD, and it's like, it went through so many different stages, but there were 9 out of 11 songs on that record were number one singles.
And what's great about that? What's great about that record is they came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
It just seemed like, okay. I mean, you could say that about so many different bands, they came out of nowhere, but the Gin Blossoms seemed to really come out of nowhere.
No, nobody knew who they were. There was no lead up to that record.
What it was just the merit of the sound alone, and it was real rock and roll music, and that translated to radio.
And the songwriting, the way it was written, those catchy lines. I mean, it was
at the time, and to this day, I think it's a classic record.
Yeah. You can go back and listen to it, and it's just, those songs are still just like, you can tell why they were hit songs.
Yeah, for sure.
As soon as you hit play.
You can tell it was recorded in Memphis too. I don't know what that is, but it has a Memphis sound.
It is.
Is that
it's
Memphis
recognizable
sound.
for sure.
I don't know if you got to work with Luther Dickinson over the years.
Sure did.
I got to meet his father, Jim Dickinson, who's a real Memphis man.
Yeah, I worked with Jim too.
Jim is a legendary musician from Memphis that played piano on the Rolling Stones song. Which one is it?
I'm trying to remember which one he played on it.
Wild Horses.
Was it Wild Horses?
It was Wild Horses, yeah.
I think you're right.
So Jim Dickinson played piano on Wild Horses. He also played piano on Bob Dylan's really wonderful album Time Out of Mind. And that was produced by my friend Daniel Lanois.
Yeah.
French-Canadian producer.
Very famous producer too.
So, and there's pictures of Jim Dickinson at that time playing with Bob, playing, with the Rolling Stones. He was, if you watch the film footage, because they have actual film footage of the recording of Wild Horses, you can see Jim Dickinson laying back on a couch with some sunglasses on, listening, with the Stones, the cool Memphis cat in the corner, and it's wonderful that Jim could instill that musical line to his children with the North Mississippi All-Stars.
and later
Cody
Black Crowes,
Dickinson and Luther Dickinson and the Black Crowes, a very great American rock and roll band.
There's just so much history in this town.
Yeah,
like
I mean Otis Redding.
You just start digging it all.
You say Otis Redding, and it's like, oh my God, he's one of the greatest singers of all time.
Yeah,
you know?
Well,
and that's Memphis.
And it keeps going.
Happened
and
here.
It keeps going and going, and then you'll like keep. It does not end.
I would love to hear.
I
don't know, but I would love to hear James Brown's relationship with Memphis, because I'm sure that he had one. He had to.
I guarantee you that he did.
He had to have a relationship here. I don't know whether he recorded here or not, but I want to find out.
I don't know. I don't know for sure on that one. Although like you said, I guarantee you there was a relationship to this city in some capacity.
Yeah.
You know. But
I mean, Michael Jackson married Lisa Marie Presley. That's a direct connection, right? Michael Jackson to Memphis, to Elvis. Married his daughter.
Well, there's all sorts of really interesting stories about very, very famous people being here. Yeah. I mean, they still are like here for various things.
I like talking to people in town, being like, "Oh, you know, remember Blockbuster Video?"
Of course,
it doesn't exist anymore. But you know, people remember Lisa Marie Presley and Michael Jackson at Blockbuster Video, being normal people renting movies
and stuff. Yeah. Well, there's so many stories, man, and it's just like I said, it's an endless circle. And the more you start discovering things, the more you realize how much more stuff was done here.
Well, it's just amazing because in Memphis you can't throw a stone without touching a corner that Jerry Lee Lewis walked on, or Elvis drove by in his pickup truck, or who knows, Chuck Berry might have been walking down, Lamar Avenue with his guitar and wrote Johnny Be Good. I mean, anything's possible, or his song Memphis, Yeah. It's just the fact that the Beatles played here and so many.
Well, the Beatles directly themselves contributed
Johnny Cash,
everything right to Elvis, to Memphis. All these roads lead back here. Yeah. There's been so much music. Even this is discussion mostly been about some of the older things, but even modern music, even take modern rap and hip hop. There's a lot of people that would argue that 8Ball and MJG, some of the best I've ever worked with, hip hop artists from Memphis. Yes. Everything going on in Atlanta is like, you can almost draw a direct line of influence to 8Ball and MJG. Okay. And a lot of people would probably agree with me on that statement, because I'm repeating some stuff that I've been told too from people I very, very much respect. But yeah, it's like, usually you'll find that Memphis did it like 5-6 years ago. But now somebody else is doing their own type of thing with it, and it's getting popular.
I like the idea that music in general is symbiotic. Like, okay, we make our music here in Memphis. That doesn't mean it's so separate than Nashville. It doesn't mean it's so separate from Los Angeles or New York or Chicago. No. It's just every place has a sound and a certain...
There's a style.
No two places are the same, and Memphis has its own style. I like the idea that because the music business doesn't really exist in Memphis on like a industry level, the recording studios certainly are here.
Oh gosh, yeah.
And you talk about,
if you're talking about
Jason Gillespie, one of the greatest.
There hasn't been a strong label.
Jason Gillespie, one of the greatest audio engineers in town. Boo Mitchell. Just did a movie soundtrack and
all the famous stuff.
Royal Studios, the legendary Al Green, and look up Royal Studios because Boo Mitchell is just a mountain of a man and a wonderful person.
Super nice guy.
Talented guy.
I got to work with Willie before he passed away.
Oh, man, wow.
It was amazing.
So that's his father, right?
Yeah. Who did all the horns and stuff for Al, all the Al Green stuff. It was amazing. It was one of the coolest experiences of my life because we went in there and Willie had blank sheet music laid out, right? And all the musicians are just kind of sitting in the tracking room floor warming up. And so we put the song on for Willie, and he just kind of wanted us to play it and like nobody talk. He starts writing, you know what I mean? And it's just going to town. And he was literally crafting what we were about to hear in a few minutes for the players. Like all 3 parts.
Wow.
By the time he was done, he was like, all right, handed this off. And like they sat the sheet music down and then they played it. It was like, oh my God. He was hearing all of that in his head.
Creating music for horns out of
Out
pure
of
genius,
thin air.
out of your mind.
Yeah, he was hearing the parts,
Yeah.
like in his brain, and then was able to like put it all down. It was such a wonderful experience.
So something I've been wanting to hit
watch.
home is just this idea that independents, renegades, outliers, people that act independently from the business, that are passionate about music. If you're passionate about music and you want to make great records, you come to Memphis, Tennessee, and you make a great record.
Yeah, absolutely.
Whether that's hip hop, whether that's rock and roll, whether that's the blues, whether that's country music.
Yeah.
You come to Memphis and you make a record. And you do that because it's the passion to make great records, that the tools are actually here, the studios are here, the sound, the Memphis sound is here.
And I would put up the Memphis talent is here.
Mm-hmm.
And it is its own unique talent. You can argue about, there's all sorts of great things
I go to
everywhere.
different cities and I hear great players. Like,
Of course.
I was in Los Angeles. I was at the Beverly Hills Hotel. And there's this fantastic piano player that plays on Saturday nights in a certain lounge at the Beverly Hills Hotel. So he's playing away, and it's just amazing, amazing piano playing. But the way he's playing is slightly mechanical. It doesn't have a bluesy feel. It doesn't have a gospel about the playing. And as wonderful as his piano playing is, I wouldn't hire him to play on my record per se.
Right.
Wonderful to go hear him,
Enjoy.
perform
Yeah, of
at
course.
that moment, but not a player that I would have play on my personal music.
Right. I think it goes back to what I was talking about
And
earlier
it's
about
feel.
that improvisation.
It's a feeling.
It's the mentality of improving first and then making the technical second.
And drawing from a certain history
That
that's
too.
created here.
Certainly.
Like they say, just, like you said, the music's in the water, the music's in the river. There's so many, places
cliches.
we can the music's in the sky in Memphis. It just falls down on.
I think it's
when it
just there
rains,
is a large, and it's
inspired.
not just Memphis proper. I mean, there's musical history about the Delta, this whole region.
Yeah.
3 hours in any direction, and there's musical history down here.
But I get that, Memphis too, and in the region, this is the big city.
It is.
It really is. This is the big city. And at this point, it's the medical hub.
Yeah, and
FedEx. and FedEx, which is wonderful too.
Well, yeah.
It's very convenient having an international airport
Right
in
there.
Memphis.
Yeah. So, but again, we're kind of coming up on time. Was there anything else you wanted to hit?
Well, I guess ending, I was talking about why I moved to Memphis.
Yeah.
It's how I got to Memphis. It's how I got to Memphis. Yeah. What's that? 2 feet off a Beale or whatever?
Oh, walking in Memphis.
Yeah, walking in Memphis. So I came here when I was 20 years old, and in no small part to the influence of B.B. King. Also, Jeff Buckley came to Memphis, and I had the opportunity to meet everybody that ever worked with Jeff Buckley, which is interesting. His band members, they were in a band called the AM, and also various different projects. So I got to meet, Joan Wasser and Michael Ty and different people that recorded with Jeff on that Sketches record. Unfortunately, Jeff Buckley went swimming in the Mississippi River and drowned and passed away. And
you
that is a long
don't
time.
swim in the Mississippi. Everybody from here knows this.
Yet I hear stories all the time of how common it was to actually swim in the Mississippi in the past. People talk about, we would just get a tree, hold on to some big log, and go roll down the river. We did that every Sunday.
I don't know about the Mississippi.
Well, that's what I heard.
There's a lot of rivers
I hear a lot
around
of
here.
Yeah, all right.
So
anyway, hopefully Jeff Buckley's legacy doesn't begin or end in Memphis. Hopefully that's timeless and
the record certainly feels timeless.
Genius. But that Sketches record was recorded in this particular room. And so that influenced me to record here. There was a fire. My friends were in a band called Snow Globe, and that's Tim Regan, now currently in Austin, Texas, but a real Memphis music man. And he was recording here when I first came here. It was called Easley McCain, this recording studio.
That was early 2000s, right?
So I was standing right here behind the console, and Tim Regan's here, and he says, man, if you want to get some lunch, best place to go is down the street to Payne's Barbecue. And you get the pulled pork sandwich, and you get half hot and half mild, and with the pickled coleslaw. And he wrote it on a paper plate. He wrote, "Ask Doug how to get to Payne's Barbecue," meaning Doug Easley, one of the owners of the studio. So he wrote that on, and it said, "Ask Doug how to get to Payne's Barbecue," signed Tim, on a paper plate. So I always just loved that, like coming here to this iconic recording studio, getting to kind of tinker around with instruments and hear the room sound, and then being turned on to probably the best barbecue joint in town. Now I know that can be contested.
Highly arguable. Highly argued.
But my favorite is Payne's. So to this day, I have that paper plate, and I cut it out. Oh, cool. And I put it in a frame.
You kept it?
And I kept it.
Nice.
And it said, "Ask Doug how to get to Payne's Barbecue, Tim." And I always kept that because it meant something to me.
Music memory, connection.
So during that time, there was a fire here at Easley McCain Studios.
2005.
And my friend was recording a record, and his record, the 2-inch tape, went up in flames. They recorded a whole record here, and it went up in flames. Imagine the time, the dedication, the money,
all lost.
The manpower, the man and women power, to make a record, and it's all gone.
Yeah.
So I remember standing out in the parking lot right here and picking up the ashes of just Elvis memorabilia and all the weird stuff they had on decorating the walls, and like a half charred, velvet Elvis painting, and all these things. But I ended up picking out all these different items because it was sentimental to me, and I took it home with me. So I had all these.
So crazy. I don't think you've told me this part of the
burnt
story.
items of the studio.
Yeah.
So when I moved back to Memphis about 6 or 7 years ago, it didn't occur to me that this studio would be open.
Right.
I thought it burned down. It's over. Easy McCain left and they're gone. And I'm like, well, where am I going to record? I came to Memphis to write a rock and roll record.
Yeah.
I mean, that's my motivation of really moving here, was to reconnect with some of the kids that I grew up with that were real, I'd say one of the last musical generations. I mean, I see young girls and different people, Bailey Bigger being like a really good example of a really young, talented songwriter, and a local songwriter. I guess with the invention of the cell phone, there's a disconnect from that last generation where they didn't have cell phones.
Right.
And I don't know, picking up on a certain musical tradition that is Memphis in its own. We were playing some music even last night that I thought, oh, this is real Memphis music. I think that is disappearing, and I wish that certain sounds, just like Southern accents, are disappearing.
Sure. Well, things change. I think that it's less about it disappearing so much as evolving, because if you really, and you've said this before, if you really look,
I like that better, an evolution.
It's an evolution.
Yeah.
If you really look, you can hear things and you say that sounds like Memphis.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
So it's still there, and it's a younger generation. What's really,
talking about Boo Mitchell, Bruno Mars's song "Uptown Funk You Up" is
The
probably
horns
one of the
they did,
biggest
yeah.
modern songs out of Memphis. A smash hit, and out of nowhere. But you know what? When you listen to that record, that's a Memphis record.
well,
That's a Memphis sound.
that horn sound, that Al Green, Willie and Boo sound of horns is iconic.
Yeah.
And it is very highly a Memphis thing, for sure.
So it's fun that, somebody could show up in Memphis and do something maybe traditionally Memphis, but it comes out on the radio sounding 100% original and new.
Yeah, exactly right.
Which is fascinating to me, that you can draw on the past and create
well, and like I said,
innovation.
Even referencing the hip hop side, like there's people that have been doing a certain sound long before everybody else, and then other places pick up on it, and suddenly it's popular. There was even a joke among Memphis musicians for a while there, the late 90s, early 2000s for me, where we half jokingly said, if you wanted to make it in Memphis, you got to move somewhere else, pop off, and then Memphis is going to claim you. But until you're already successful in another town, Memphis isn't going to pay attention.
Well,
Yeah, it was a hard town in that way, because everybody's got an opinion on music. Everybody's, like I mentioned,
well, you have to be, just like we were saying, you have to be fiercely independent, renegade spirit, soul-driven to create music in Memphis.
And I think all of that is leading into sounds that you may not even fully recognize. There's a lot of those talented players that we talked about, especially the church players that, believe it or not, are some of the backing support bands for pop artists you see all over the country. All over the country. And they're all
the backing bands. Yeah.
They're all Memphis
Backing
players.
Yeah.
They're all Memphis players.
So you and I know we can do this for hours and hours.
Yeah, we do have to kind of wrap up.
I do challenge you that maybe this is just the first.
Yeah, we're gonna have to do a part 2.
I think we're gonna have a part 2.
We're gonna have a part 2.
But maybe we'll do that next year. see where we're at.
Yeah,
so we can revisit things.
Dude, thank you so much for doing this.
Yeah, I love you, brother, and
love you
thank
too,
you for helping me out on my record and helping so many people here in Memphis in their musical pursuits.
Just trying to keep the music alive.
Yeah,
dude,
And your heart and dedication is seen and shown.
Thank you. Yeah. I appreciate it, man. All right, y'all. Episode 7, Mark Prescott, and stay tuned for Prescott and the Transit, world famous original.
Yeah, that's the record.
Album coming soon.
Yeah. Music videos and all. All right. Thank y'all.
Later.